He was born where Rome didn't bother looking down an alley that smelled like sour wine, old fish, and decisions gone wrong. The Subura. If you were born here, you didn't get a destiny. You got a survival tutorial. His mother called him Marcus because it was cheap, common, and didn't invite the gods to notice him. His father was a dock porter until a falling crate proved that gravity was undefeated. After that, Marcus learned early that Rome did not pause for grief. It stepped over it and kept walking. By 10. He was running errands for men who never smiled and women who always watched their purses. By 12, he knew how to throw a punch, how to run fast, and how not to ask questions. School was for boys with fathers. Marcus learned numbers by counting loaves, and history by watching soldiers march past, clean sandals, polished helmets, and a confidence that said, "We belong everywhere." They didn't smell like the Subura. That mattered. At 17, his shoulders were broad from hauling sacks, and his options were narrow. Join a gang, starve politely, or sign his name badly on a wax tablet and become property of the Roman army for 25 years. The recruiter promised pay, bread, and land at the end. Marcus heard only one word clearly: bread. He stepped forward. The legion stamped him into existence. Training hurt in ways he didn't know pain could. They ran until legs forgot they were legs. They carried packs heavier than Marcus's entire childhood. They practiced stabbing, not slashing. Because Rome didn't want heroes, it wanted efficiency. You are not brave, the centurion barked.
You are no longer farmers,
You
merchants,
are replaceable.
or sons.
It was
You
oddly
are
comforting.
legionaries.
If he was replaceable, then he had finally become something. They shaved his face, issued his gear, and took his name. He was now Legionary Marcus of the 20 Valeria Victrix. His gladius was short and ugly, like the work it did. His shield was tall and heavy, and after a month, it felt like a second spine. He learned to march in silence, to build a fort in a single afternoon, and to sleep through rain, insults, and the screams of men pretending they weren't afraid. His first campaign was in Gaul, where the forests whispered and the locals looked at Romans the way wolves look at fences' temporary obstacles. Marcus learned that battles were mostly waiting, marching, digging, and then a very short moment of terror where time snapped like a twig. He learned that men did not fall gracefully. They tripped, gurgled, and clutched at nothing. He learned that jokes were a kind of armor. "At least the food's free," someone said while arrows fell. Marcus laughed because not laughing felt worse. He survived his first winter by stealing warmth from other bodies and pretending the cold was a rumor. He learned dice games, curses in 3 languages, and how to write home without saying anything that would worry his mother who could not read anyway. He learned the army's real rule: don't stand out. Heroes die first. The man of iron keeps his shield up. Years stacked like bricks. Marcus fought rebels who didn't want Rome and allies who wanted Rome gone later. He guarded roads, escorted tax collectors, and once stood very still while a governor practiced speeches that went nowhere. He earned scars that impressed no one in the Subura, and medals that meant free drinks near forts.
Citizens of Rome,
he learned to love
now.
the sound of the trumpet because it meant
today
someone else was making decisions. By his 10th year, he was a veteran, which meant he complained constantly and was usually right. He trained recruits who arrived soft and left quieter. He taught them the important things. Keep your feet dry, your blade clean, and your mouth shut. He also taught them how to steal an extra ration without getting caught. Rome didn't put that in manuals. Then came Germania. The maps grew vague, the weather cruel, and the trees too close together. This wasn't land. It was an argument with nature. The tribes didn't fight like Gauls. They vanished, waited, and returned when you thought it was safe. Marcus learned to hate mud with a personal passion. He learned that beards could hide knives, and that snow made everything honest. You couldn't pretend it wasn't cold. You just suffered. He was promoted to Optio after his superior took a spear where speeches come from. Promotion meant responsibility and less sleep. It also meant standing between panic and order, which is where Rome always placed its faith. Marcus did his job. He shouted, shoved, and held lines together with profanity and presence. He joked that he'd joined the army to see the world,
They're everywhere.
and now the world was trying to kill him for trespassing at night. By the fire, he talked about land he would farm someday. Somewhere warm, with olives and no marching. Everyone talked like that. It was a shared lie, passed around like wine.
Hold the line.
It kept the edges from cutting too deep.
Now.
The winter that broke him came quietly. Supply lines thinned, boots cracked. Fingers went numb and stayed that way. The frontier fort was more wood than hope. Marcus stood watch and listened to the forest breathe. He thought of the Subura, of heat, of bread that didn't taste like regret. He laughed softly at the idea that he had escaped poverty by walking to the end of the world. When the attack came, it wasn't glorious. It was chaos shadows shouting, the thud of bodies against shields. Marcus held the line because that's what he did. He took a blow that numbed his arm, another that bent his knee, and still he stood. The man of iron does not fall easily, but iron cracks in the cold. He went down in the snow, staring at a sky that looked nothing like Rome. His breath came out thin and pale. Someone dragged him back. Someone didn't. Marcus smiled, because even now, someone was making decisions. Rome would endure. It always did. Men like him were the fuel. He didn't know if his name would be remembered. He knew his job was done. Born in a slum, forged by discipline, worn down by distance, he had been everywhere Rome demanded, and nowhere he truly chose. The forest closed in, quiet and indifferent, and the man of iron rested. Marcus did not die that night. That was Rome's final joke. He woke up in a timber hut that smelled like smoke, blood, and boiled cabbage, proof that survival was not always a blessing. A medic told him the news with professional boredom, cracked ribs, a ruined knee, and a scar that would make children stare. "You'll walk," the man said, "just not fast. Or far." Marcus thanked him anyway. Gratitude was cheaper than anger. They shipped him south with the others, who no longer fit neatly in formation. Veterans, wounded men, walking reminders that Rome paid its debts slowly. The march back felt longer than any campaign. Every step argued with his knee. Every mile reminded him that the army moved on without him, perfectly fine, like a river flowing around a stone. At the Legion's rear camp, a clerk with soft hands and sharp eyes counted out his pay. 22 years served. 3 short of freedom, Rome loved precision. Marcus argued, once, quietly. The clerk shrugged. Rules were rules. Still, they marked him for discharge on medical grounds. He was given a diploma, a few coins, and the right to say he had belonged. It wasn't land, but it was paper, and paper mattered in Rome. The journey home took months. Marcus traveled with traders, pilgrims, and men who told stories that got better the further they went from the truth. His leg ached in the rain. He slept in barns and under stars, always waking early, always listening. Habits outlive wars. When he reached Italy, Rome looked the same and different all at once. Louder, richer, more crowded. He passed temples built while he was away, and funerals for men who had never left.
They seem quite
In the Subura, the alley of his birth was narrower than he remembered. Or maybe he was wider. His mother was gone. A neighbor remembered her name. That was something. Marcus tried civilian life like a borrowed tunic. It didn't quite fit. He worked guarding warehouses, then training rich boys who wanted the posture of soldiers without the inconvenience. He told them the truth. They paid him to stop. He learned that peace required its own discipline, patience, compromise, silence. It was harder than marching. He married late to a widow who laughed at his jokes and didn't mind his limp. They argued about money, about noise, about whether Rome was worth the trouble. Marcus said yes out of habit. She said no out of experience. They met in the middle. They had a son. Marcus held the child awkwardly, terrified in a way no battle had ever made him feel. He taught the boy numbers, letters, and how to stand properly. He did not teach him how to stab. Years passed. The frontier shifted. Emperors rose and fell with impressive speed. Marcus grew quieter. His scars stiffened in winter. Sometimes he dreamed of forests breathing and woke with his hand clenched, searching for a
Hold
shield
the
that wasn't
gladius with a
there.
firm yet
His
flexible
wife would
grip.
nudge him
Your
and tell
stance
him he
needs
was
to be
home.
wider for balance.
He would nod, unconvinced, but grateful. When recruiters came again, he watched from a doorway as young men stepped forward, hungry for bread and certainty. He didn't stop them. Rome needed
He
fuel.
is gone.
It always had. He just
passed
hoped the fire would be
peacefully in his
kind.
sleep.
Marcus died on a cold morning, quietly, without witnesses worth recording. No trumpet, no speech. Just a man whose body had finally reached the end of its orders. His son buried him outside the city, marked the grave with a stone, and carved a name spelled slightly wrong. It didn't matter. Rome remembered him in the only way it knew how, by continuing. Somewhere, a road held firm because he once stood on it. A border remained a border because he had refused to step back. He was not a hero sung by poets. He was something rarer. A man who endured, born in a slum, hardened by iron, ended far from glory, but close to purpose.